Hi there, guys. It's Josh, your host from Recovery Talks 24/7. Just want to say a big, massive thank you to everybody that's been following this journey on my podcast and hearing all the amazing stories that I've had so far of lots of different people that have gone through different situations in their life, and that may be of the mental health or people that have struggled with addiction and how they've overcome it. And it's been amazing to hear the different ways of how people have conquered that. And I think it's really important as well to have all these different people come on and share this, because so many people can relate with one another. As you are aware, guys, I am sponsored by the amazing Money Wellness. Now, what Money Wellness do is they are a debt recovery company, but they support you in every single step of the way with any of your debt. And if you are struggling with anything at all, I highly recommend that you do get in contact with them. They supported me. I was very, very nervous at first because I was like, I don't want to call them, but I gave them a call, and you know what? They've been brilliant. And I am now officially debt free, and it's absolutely an amazing feeling that what I've experienced and what they've done to help me. Now, today, guys, I have an amazing guest with me. Her name is Natalie, and she is the owner of a brilliant company called the Chaotic Mind Coach. Definitely, Natalie will be able to go into a little bit more detail in regards to what she's doing, but she agreed to come on the show with me today just to share a bit of strength and hope of what she's kind of gone through in her life, and just kind of bring us through a journey that she's gone through herself. And I know it's quite a daunting thing for a lot of people to come on and share this. So I really, really just want to thank you, Natalie, for coming on today and giving up your time to be able to share a little bit about your story and what you've gone through personally. So how you doing, Natalie, anyway? You okay?
Good, I'm good. Thank you for having me. And I'm glad of the opportunity to be able to share, my own experiences that may help others that have been through something similar, or any kind of tools and takeaways that they can use from this time together.
Definitely.
So thank you.
Yeah, that's all right. And do you know what? I think it's just amazing that when two people can just come and chat, and it's just like a real chilled out session, really. Because I don't know about you, when you listen to two people talking and it's just chilled, it kind of gives you that good vibe. And I know anybody that's listening at home is just like, you know what, I'm looking forward to this. So what we've spoken about, Natalie, before we've come on here, you was quite open about what you've sort of experienced in your life, and you gave me some information. So I'd love for you to kind of share a bit about yourself, Natalie, and pretty much of sort of a beginning of your journey from probably the age of 16 of what you was explaining to me before we came on here, if that's okay.
Yeah, so my business is called the Chaotic Mind Coach simply because I'm a recovering chaotic mind. So I've kind of been through chaos at points in my life, which it's kind of been my own journey and my own struggles based on different things that have happened to me. Predominantly, like you said, when I was 16, there was something that happened to me when I was 16 that kind of shaped me as a person. And in one way, it will sound in a weird way. I'm kind of grateful of how the experience has shaped me. So when I was 16, I was sexually assaulted by my uncle. So this was my mum's brother, and this, as the story goes, it was kind of premeditated. I was babysitting for, can't remember if he had one or two sons at the time. I was babysitting, and he was at my nana's birthday. I think it was like a 60th birthday or something. And he phoned up to say, I've got something to talk to you about. And then my stomach just went. So this was the evening before, and I thought, this doesn't sit right with me. This isn't right. There's something behind this. So in the morning, I remember I just wanted to get out of the house as quick as I could. So I was in like the spare room. I got dressed underneath the covers, and then my uncle walked in naked, and he was like, "Don't look." I thought, one, why the fuck would you walk in naked to like your 60-year-old niece? So clearly he had intentions there. And luckily for me, I'd already got dressed underneath. But there was that pocket of time that was it was something that shouldn't have happened. He shouldn't have even had those kind of feelings, had that conversation the night before. So it was kind of premeditated. And I won't go into the ins and outs, but it was a traumatic experience for me. And it was something that I'd kept to myself for 6 years. He said, don't tell anyone. And I just remember from that point, it was horrible for me. Like, just not saying anything, felt kind of betrayed, alone. Just, I feel like I went chaotic. Then. Not started drinking, I was already kind of drinking, binge drinking, teenage binge drinking. But I felt like I was going out sort of 5 nights a week. I was working at the time, so I'd literally go from work and I'd go out 5 nights a week, and felt like I was living this kind of lie inside, that I couldn't say anything. But that coping strategy actually came from when I was 10. So I'll flip back and forth. Yeah. So when I was 10, there was some information revealed to me which kind of crippled me as a 10-year-old. And as a 10-year-old, I did not have the coping skills to even articulate how I felt, what I could do with this information. It was very difficult to take on that information as a 10-year-old. And I just didn't say anything to anyone. And it was that's where that behaviour came from. That coping mechanism was, I just didn't say anything. I felt alone inside. My head was chaotic. Even as like a young, as a child, my head was chaotic. I didn't have a sense of belonging. I felt like I couldn't talk to people. So I kind of didn't say things, didn't open up to people. And again, that was a situation in my life that I carried with me. I didn't say anything again for years and years and years. So come to 16, I kind of had this cope mechanism of just don't say anything and kind of live a lie, put on this front. And this front, it kind of has to drop at some point. Now that kind of come to a head, that situation when I was 16, before I was marrying my ex-husband. So before I was marrying my ex-husband, it kind of came out. I told my sister what had happened to me. She told my parents, and it kind of got brushed under the carpet. I kind of didn't want to say anything because of how it impacted my nana. I always had in my head, I'm going to say something when she dies. But obviously it came out because I couldn't hold it in any longer. And it probably wasn't dealt with the best it could. There was kind of, no one really said anything to me. It was kind of in the background. People say, oh, well, it might be a mistake. She could be lying. Well, I don't think it. One, I wasn't lying. It definitely wasn't a mistake. So, so it was kind of a situation that's, I would say in some ways it still impacts me now. Not emotionally. I can talk about it freely. It's absolutely fine. But physically, so the body remembers everything. I don't know if you've ever read The Body Knows the Score.
No, please share. That'd be awesome.
It's an amazing book. It's really heavy. It's a heavy read, but it talks about how the body stores all emotions and your body will react. So if we've not processed emotions, like 10-year-old me, I couldn't process things. 16-year-old me, I didn't process that. So if we can't process things, our body hangs on to everything. And until we've kind of healed and done different various tools and techniques that we can use to free those emotions. So even now, my body, when in my bed, my body goes rigid. And I know what it's linked to. And I always have to try and, when I'm aware of it, I just like try and breathe and just like lean into it and just relax, give myself permission to relax my body. So my body remembers. So the body knows the score. The body remembers everything. So you'll keep reacting based on different things in your life. So imagine if you're faced with a situation as an adult, and the way you react and the way your body responds, it'll be based on something previously.
Yeah. And that, do you know what? I can't agree with you, enough with what you've just explained there. And, thank you so much, Natalie, for just kind of going into detail of what you you experienced at a young age. And like you said, it's amazing now that you can speak about it. But I know, I'm sure there's probably somebody that's listening at home that has experienced that, and they maybe are keeping it still, a secret. But from what you explained then, there's only so long that you can keep something a secret, where you just have to go, I just need to talk about it. And yeah, it's an absolute shame that sometimes, and it's coming out today through even on looking on the news, when people come out and say, this has happened to me, and people's automatic thing is they're a liar, they're not telling the truth. And that could have been, I bet that was quite daunting for you in yourself, because you was kind of, maybe you started to question yourself, going, what am I, did this not happen? And like you said as well, experiencing the trauma that you went through. And I think a lot of people go through a lot of trauma in their life, and they don't know why they're experiencing things now in an adulthood. I'm exactly the same, and I totally agree with you. There's things that prop up, situations that prop up, and I'm like, I react in a certain way. And somebody said to me exactly the same, Josh, it's because something is a trauma that's happened in your childhood is the reason why you're reacting now. So I really appreciate you kind of, explaining that, because it makes sense to me, and probably somebody that's at home that's going, it makes sense. It makes sense. Like you said, when you started feeling rigid, and you still have to go through that process of doing the breathing techniques, it's something, but it does get easier, doesn't it? I know that for sure. It does get easier.
Yeah, it does get easier. And like I said, emotionally, everything's kind of released. There'll be aspects associated with that trauma, but not the trauma itself. So I'll still have like underlying feelings of anger, maybe towards other people associated with it. But it's up to me to let go of those. I don't kind of blame anyone for the way they've reacted. They've just reacted the best they could in those situations. But I do strongly believe that those two things have really shaped me as a person and my mindset and my outlook. So I kind of always think when something bad happens to me, I kind of reflect and I think, but this is something that I can give to somebody later on. I can help other people. I'm not in a victim mentality where I was like, oh my God, it's happened to me, and it happens. Life happens. Things happen that are beyond our control, and all I can control is my kind of reaction and my own healing journey. So, and that's what I do. My own mindset was a big thing, is how I look at things.
Yeah, and that's just a beautiful way of you putting it, saying that, it is odd, isn't it? Because I've said it myself, and people go, what? When I say, well, I'm kind of glad that I've gone through these things in my life, because it's made me who I am today. And people are like, what? That's nuts. It's like, well, it's made me who I am today. And the most beautiful thing is that we can give back and be able to do exactly what we're doing today. Both me and you, we're talking, we're communicating, we're able to talk about what we've gone through and how we've overcome it. And that's what you're doing today. And obviously that's what you're doing with your business module, which is the Chaotic Mind Coach, which is, I just think is brilliant. And I can't wait to be able to touch on that a little bit more as well. So in regards to going back to your relationships then, so obviously that situation's happened, that sort of, put you down a path where you was going out drinking, you was making a bit more of a crazy because you had a chaotic mind, which makes complete sense. Totally get that. So you've spoke on having challenges in your marriage as well. So what were some of the key lessons or like a realization for yourself that you gained from navigating those situations?
I think for my marriage, I kind of had one. I'll just say that I was a young mum. I was a teenage mum. I was pregnant at 17. Had my son at 18. And then we married at 22. So that came with its own challenges as well. I don't feel, like reflecting, I don't feel like I had emotional resilience not within all them. Yeah, I'm just trying to think. Within all the marriage, I kind of don't think I did. So we divorced when I was separated about 31. 31. So I feel before then, even had a good mindset. I feel like I've gone off now. Have I gone off?
No, it's fine. It's
Like,
fine.
even I had a good mindset, I don't think I had the emotional resilience in that relationship. I think because of the relationship and the marriage had its own challenges at times, that I kind of had victim mentality within the marriage. I was like, you owe me something. You owe me something, and I would use that. And that's not a healthy relationship.
Yeah, totally get that. And I'm guessing as well, because obviously, again, going back to the beginning when you experienced, the trauma that you went through, how was that for you? Because again, there's maybe, a female or a male that's sitting at home that has gone through what you've gone through, and they may be thinking, how do I sort of, when I move on to a relationship, how do I kind of explain so that they understand? Because I'm sure that was still very raw for you. So how did you cope with that in the relationship, basically? Because you must have still been going through some form of recovery through that.
Good question. And I think because it came out literally just weeks before we were getting married, I was not in a good place getting married. And I wasn't in a good place getting married because of things within the relationship anyway. To be honest, the marriage at 22 probably wasn't the best thing. But I'm glad it happened. We made a good go of it together. We're a good family together. So, there's good things that were in that marriage. So in terms of,
If I put you on the spot here.
you have, because it's not something that I've ever kind of reflected on, how it did impact and how it did navigate. To be honest, I think I was just kind of on my own journey. I feel like, I was on my own journey in that marriage. And maybe because I didn't talk as much, because I remember a few times in that marriage I went to counselling, and I always had in my head that I was depressed. I had postnatal depression as well. And I did go to the doctors a few times, and I had other bouts of depression. But now I don't feel like I did have depression. I just think there was other things associated with that. I don't think it was depression. I think it was just a symptom of underlying
what you was
stuff.
going through.
So I don't think as two young people we both had ways to articulate how we felt and how the other one could support and accommodate the other one's needs. And my ex-husband worked away. He was in the army, so he had he went to Iraq as well. He was in the Iraq war, so there was stuff there for him. And then he worked away offshore. So our whole relationship, we were in this period of together, not together, together, not together. And I suppose in those times that we were together, we concentrated on other things. And the times when we weren't together, I kind of concentrated my own healing journey.
Yeah. And I think it's amazing, isn't it, that we've got the services such as the doctors that we can go to and say, look, this is how I'm feeling right now. This is what I'm going through. And they can kind of give you a form of a medication to get through that. And I like how you just said that, it was just that point in your life where things were a struggle and you needed that extra support. And I think that's really, really important that you've said that today, because maybe some people are feeling like they can't go and do that. They can't say, look, I'm going through something. I need that help. I need that support. And it's just to remind people, isn't it? It's okay. And it may only just be that period of time in your life where you just need that little bit of extra help. It doesn't make you less of a person. It doesn't restrict you from growing into being whoever you want to be or whatever journey you want to go on. I think it's just important for people to realize that it's going to be okay and it's all right to just say, I'm struggling, I need some help. Because I've met so many people on my journey that really struggle to just say, I'm struggling, to just verbally say it out loud that I am struggling, I can't do this. So I think it's brilliant how you've brought us at this beginning of your journey, what you've gone through, but you've used it for a positive. You've admitted, do you know what? I did struggle, but I done something about it. I made the right choices, and look at where you are today. And I think it's just, you're a miracle in itself, and you're definitely going to be a blessing to other people that are going to be listening to this, are going to go, do you know what, if she can do it, I can do it, you know? So I think it's really important that we just always remind people it's going to be all right. It's going to be okay. But I guess it's, you know, and I still go through some struggles myself anyway to this day. I'm not perfect, and I'm sure you still go through your own struggles, Natalie.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, yes, when you're going through it, it may not feel great. It may not feel like there is a way out or there is a light at the end of the tunnel. But one thing I can stand on, and I'm sure people that are listening at home, is I can stand on today. I can look back at that situation I've gone through and gone, do you know what, bloody hell, I got through it. And then whenever another situation comes up, I may be able to deal with it a lot more better than what I did before, you know?
Yeah, you're building resilience each time. So it's kind of a skill building exercise to some extent.
It is, definitely. And it's all right to have that support next to you if you do need that support. You know, I have that for myself. I have an amazing gentleman that I class as like my sponsor, sort of like my key worker, my person I can go and speak to. And I think that's really important. I think it's important to be involved in things of what you do as well. You know, what we'll talk about with the whole tapping. Is it the EFT tapping?
Mm-hmm.
You know, a form of meditation, being surrounded by other people and getting through things together, I think is so important. Community coming together and supporting one another is brilliant. I'm going off in a tangent now, Natalie. So,
No.
so in regards to going back to, obviously you've become a young mum, can you describe your sort of experience with the postnatal depression then, and what helped you through that time? Because I'd love to kind of touch more on that, because there's probably a lot of people that have gone through that or are still going through it, and I'd love to know how you got through it.
So I was always looking at ways to help myself. First and foremost, I did go and speak to somebody. I really needed that. So I did go and speak to somebody, but also I was always looking for like a holistic approach. There was something else. I needed something else. I'm still like that now. I always look for something else, another tool. So first of all, talking to somebody and recognising that, but also finding something that works for you. I mean, at the time, I was kind of into all different like supplements and things like that. You know, when you didn't really use the internet that much, so I just read the Holland and Barrett magazine and that kind of thing. Whereas now, if it happened to me now, I'd be different. But going through, when it came at the point of when I'd gone to the doctors, we're talking years after postnatal depression now, years after, and I just thought, I'm just going to have to get used to it. I'm just fucking depressed. Why am I going to keep just being in this cycle? I thought, and then my hairdresser said to me, Nat, I think you should try hypnotherapy, because I'd been for counselling, and I think that for me, it came to a point where I couldn't go any further with it. I realised the talk didn't help. I needed something else. So I went for hypnotherapy. And I would say it was probably one of the things that had completely changed my life.
Wow.
It kind of. So I went for hypnotherapy when I might have been 31. So I'd come to the point where I'd gone to the doctors, done all the scoring, come up high. I thought, yeah, just get used to it. I'm depressed. That's it. I'm going through the cycle. Then my hairdresser said, try hypnotherapy as a last resort. Like, honestly, I can't say how much it changed me. And it became my go-to. So I went for hypnotherapy, and it was literally like something just lifted off me. Because what hypnotherapy does, it taps into subconscious. So it will, depend on different techniques used within hypno. I can't even remember the first technique that was used, but it taps into like past things. Like I've said, what the body remembers everything. So it kind of goes back. And you don't walk around like a chicken or anything like that. So
no, that's good.
So I went for hypno, and it was literally like this cloud had lifted, and I couldn't believe it. And I was like, this is weird. Then I had a little meltdown, after about a week, and I phoned up the hypnotherapist, who's now a friend of mine, since, and I was like, oh my God, it's not worked. She's like, just, calm down, come back in, did another session, and my husband left me about a week later. Now, had he left me a few weeks before hypnotherapy, I would have been a completely different story. I would have reacted so differently because I didn't have that emotional resilience.
Yeah.
But because something changed within me, it kind of just freed blocked stuff in me that was there. It changed me.
And I can tell just by how you explained it, when somebody gets really excited, like, it works. I love that.
It's incredible. Now, I've gone for hypno for quite a few things. So when I'd have a wobble, I'd go, right, I'm going for hypnotherapy, to have another wobble. And then I got to a point a couple of years ago, well, 3 years ago now, actually, because my uncle thing came up in one hypnotherapy session. It was all about rejection and betrayal. So we'd gone back and that came out in hypnotherapy. So it kind of freed a lot of that then. So then, about 3 years ago, I was going through, a friend of mine fell out with me, and I found it quite difficult to navigate through that, and friendship fallouts happen and all that. But this one, I found it quite difficult. And I thought, I need to go and see my friend Janet, the hypnotherapist. And I said to her, I don't want hypnotherapy. I just want to talk to you. You know my mind better than anyone else. So I just went and spoke. I went about 2-3 times and just spoke. Because in my head I thought, I don't need hypnotherapy anymore. I need to know how to just, when I have a wobble, do it all myself. It's fine. I can do it. And I wouldn't go back to hypnotherapy now because I've learned the coping tools myself. And which I had done before, but I kept going back after a wobble. And I thought, I can't still be in this same cycle of going when something happens.
Yeah. And I think that's amazing how you've touched on the hypnotherapy. It's something I may look into myself, to be fair, because like I said, it's when you, whatever experience you go through in your life, whatever trauma it may be, if you've suffered from mental health, if you've suffered from any form of abuse or drug addiction or anything like that, it's always great, I've realized, is just to remain open-minded and to try these things, because what have you got to lose? And some things work for some people and other things work for other people, and that's okay also as well. But I think it's a real shame, isn't it? Because all these sort of services that you can go to, unfortunately, if we want to get that service, we have to pay for it. But wouldn't it be absolutely amazing if, all of these things were just kind of free on the NHS for people that are in this country to get the support and help they need? Because I know somebody that's at home that's sitting there going, yeah, but I can't afford it, or I just getting there is really difficult, but wouldn't it be amazing if all of these things were just on the table for people to just kind of grab and be like, yeah, you can have that. Just try that and see how you get on. That would be absolutely amazing, wouldn't it?
I think it's slowly changing because you just, I say you just offered like it's not enough, but the traditional routes are counselling and CBT. And like I said, not everything works for everybody. Me talking about hypnotherapy worked for me, but other people it's not going to work for. But, NHS are starting to offer a more holistic approach and alternatives. And we've already touched on like EFT tap and what I do. It works very similar to hypnotherapy on a therapeutic level. Yeah, you're working on the same kind of system. So you're actually going back to that subconscious and freeing things. So EFT, is it currently offered on... Some do. I mean, there's a lot of clinical evidence to support EFT with PTSD, depression, all sorts. So I imagine at some point it will be. I kind of think some people do. Some do offer that. Like is it EDRM or EDRI?
I think that's right, EDRM or something like that. Yeah.
That's offered by some.
Okay.
So
that's
they
awesome.
are kind of changing.
Yeah.
Very slowly.
Yeah, very slowly, but it's amazing what all this stuff does. It's all a new thing for me, you know, realizing doing all this like meditational stuff, and you know, kind of there was another thing that was quite good. A really good friend of mine, he does the heavy breathing technique. I don't know what it's called, but there's like a heavy breathing technique, and then you breathe really, really fast, and then you kind of hold your breath and then breathe really fast again, and your kind of body sort of crinks up a little bit. And I tried it once, but I tell you something, at the end of it, I felt amazing, because at the end of it, you give this loud and like massive like scream, shout, just to kind of let go of what that particular subject that gentleman was talking about on the video, basically. And that was brilliant as well. And I could do that every day if I could. But it's great, you know, you just touching on the hypnotherapy. It sounds really interesting, and again, kind of gives a, you know, an option for people to have a look into it as well, to try these things, because these things are out there, and I don't think it's advertised enough. But what I've started to notice, like what you said, a lot more now on these, like, you know, the TikTok and Instagram, there's a lot of people that are saying that if you tried this, or scientifically it's been proven that this works, and a lot of it is the hypnotherapy, the meditation, all of this stuff. It really, really does work. So highly suggest anyone that's listening to honestly just give it a go. You've got nothing to lose at all. So going back to obviously like when you was a young mum, and what would you say to yourself? What advice would you give to yourself if you looked at yourself in the mirror, or you met you at a young age now? What sort of advice would you give to them? And if, you know, to yourself, feeling overwhelmed and feeling a bit unsupported, what advice would you give to that little version of yourself?
First, everything's temporary. It doesn't last. And just having faith that it doesn't last. Also, just being open to trying and exploring different tools, arming yourself with tools, having a toolkit that you can go to, that you can try each time that you feel a bit kind of chaotic or overwhelmed. And that's one thing I do with my job, is tools that people can just pick up, and tools that are free. You know, like you said, when we go to kind of, if you have to go for hypno, these are things that we have to pay for. There's so many free tools that you can use. Like you said, the breath work, you can get on YouTube and find things. So it is creating a toolbox. So time that, you know, everything's temporary with time. It doesn't last. Creating a toolbox, having a go-to that you can just pick out, and having a person, you know, a person that's an anchor, like is a protective, and these are all protective factors. Having a go-to person, you know, as a child, I did have a go-to person outside my family, so I've always had that go-to person. At the moment, is my husband.
Definitely, and that's amazing. Do you know what I mean? And I'm sure, like,
my new husband, yeah.
Your new husband,
Not the old one.
yeah, not the old one. No, that's fine. We'll get that clear. Probably people going, same one, new one. And I'm guessing now, obviously, being in this new relationship, lovely husband, you've said that's your go-to person. I'm sure now it's a big difference. He understands you now, and obviously he gets what you've gone through, and he's been supportive in that. So how's it been now for you in this new relationship, and where you are today? What's it been like for you now?
I think for me, it was going into a relationship as an adult and not going into a relationship as a child, which I know isn't always the case for people. So I felt it was nice to be an adult in a relationship, not a child, and look at those learning things from my old relationship. I kind of still hold things in my head and don't talk, and then he'll say to me, "There's something wrong." I'm like, "No, there's not," and it'll just be something and nothing. Like time of the month. This week, time of the month, he was like, "Something's wrong." I'm like, "No, it's not." He went, "Yes, it is. I can tell." I'm like, "No, it's not." And then I'll go, snappy. And he's like, "Yes, there is." So I think, reflecting now, I should articulate that something is wrong and not keep it in my head. But definitely trying to communicate when something is a bit kind of not there. Yeah, and just looking at the lessons from the last time, there was things in this relationship that I'd seen, okay, this is the same as the last relationship, so this means that's not the relationship, it's me. I need to change because I can't have the two same responses. It means that I'm doing something. So I've had to look at me, and it's something and nothing. I can't even think. It might be the dishes, something like that.
Yeah.
But it'd be something and nothing that I think, okay, same response, different person, it's me. What can I change? So it is, you have to look at yourself and take responsibility for things as well. You know, we can't keep blaming people. We have to look at what can we do? Where can you have that influence?
Definitely, and I agree with you 100%. Even the same with my relationship as well. You know, I've got to do things for me and obviously change my certain behaviors and how I am with certain things because of my trauma that's happened to me. And obviously my story is very different to yours, but you know, with the trauma I went through, but it still comes out a lot of the time, not even just in relationships, but also in my friendship group as well. I have to like really kind of have people highlight to me, Josh, you can't be like that, mate. You got to sort of change that way of thinking, that thinking pattern. And I truly agree with you as well. Is you go through a growing up period, even though we are in, you know, let's say I'm 31, but I still feel like sometimes I'm that kid and I'm going through this journey and I'm starting to grow up again. Does that make sense? And being an adult, you know, because the things that have happened to us, we have to really sort of go on this journey and get the support that we need and have somebody that's kind of like rewires the wire in our brain and kind of go, that isn't the way it should have been for you, but that's okay. I'm here to support you and we'll rewire you back into the right place again. And that's where I'm at on my journey. You know, I do sometimes feel like I'm that child and I'm having to learn like, no, Josh, you can't do that. I'm like, oh, okay, why not? And they'll show me the right way. So definitely agree with you with having that person. You know, yours is your husband. Mine is my person that I can speak to who is like a sponsor to me. So anybody that's at home, you know, to try and find that go-to person that you not only can trust, but you can have a relationship with them and that they understand you and they get you. I think it's important to have somebody like that in your life that isn't going to judge you, that's going to sit down with you and kind of go and look at the whole bigger picture and not just kind of, you know, because I used to have people that I thought were my friends, but they would sort of co-sign my stuff and they would never point out my stuff, you know. And I think it's really important to have somebody like that around you that's going to support you every step of the way. But at the same time, sit down with you and kind of go, how are we going to get through this? What are we going to do about it? And I think it's really important.
Do you know what I like what you've said? Sorry, is talking about rewiring.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important because you do rewire your brain, you do rewire your thinking. And as you've said, you're saying you want, you know, we're rewiring our thinking. Your brain does do that. And I think people who are stuck in the same mindset, you know, they've had their challenges in life, you can change. So you can naturally change your brain anyway. You can change. Are you familiar with I imagine you're familiar with neuroplasticity?
Yeah.
So your brain rewires itself. So I think for like listeners is that the brain can rewire itself. It can rewire thinking with using the right kind of tools and strategies to enable that to happen. So you don't stay stuck in that way of thinking.
Yeah. And it's painful sometimes. It's yeah, we can do it, but sometimes it can get really painful because you're kind of like, oh, this is a new way of thinking now. This is a new way of life, and it's like, oh, this is a little bit weird. And some people, like you said, have been so stuck in a way that that's the only way they know. And then to all of a sudden for someone to go, I can show you a new way. It's going to be a little bit painful, but it's going to be okay, and it's going to get easier. But I tell you something, I've gone through that personally, and I could be honest, it's been so painful. I've been like that little kid in the corner where I'm like, oh my God, this is so hard, you know. But at the end of it, I'm like, do you know what? I feel amazing though. You know, I've got a new perspective on that situation. I've got a new perspective on my life in general now. And it just goes to show we are very capable of becoming a new person, and we are capable of rewiring our mindsets. We just got to have that tiny little bit of faith in ourselves that we can do this. And even if it's just the tiniest little bit of just going, okay, I'll try, it makes such a big difference. You're a proof in the pudding, Natalie, and so many other people that I've spoken to. There's proof there. It's there. It's there in front of us. It's our choice to whether to go, do you know what? Today's the day. I'm going to make a change. I'm not going to be that person that I am, what I was then. I'm going to make a difference today for myself, not for anybody else, but just for me, and then everything else will come, so that's amazing. So thank you so much for giving us a sort of an overview of what you've been through. So the positivity of this story is that you've gone through the trauma in your life. You had a breakdown in a marriage, but then you've married an amazing man. I've never even met him, but he just sounds awesome. So going on from that, then you've created the Chaotic Mind. So can you share a little bit about how that sort of started, why you started it? Because I'd love to know, and I'm sure other people at home would love to know as well.
So it kind of began, the seed was planted a long, long time ago. So I had a profession in barbering. That was kind of, when I went into hairdressing and barbering, I told myself it was my backup plan. So I kind of did my backup plan first because I wanted to trade. And the seed was planted. I was reading again, I was always in self-development, teach yourself, life coach book. Again, I was looking for something to learn, tools myself. And I thought, I'd love to coach. I think I'm good with people. People came to me for advice. A coach actually doesn't give advice, by the way, a coach. So I thought, I wanted to do coaching, kind of looked into that. And then I ended up teaching. So, cut a long story short, ended up teaching, and I got into kind of holistic stuff as well. I done a bit of Reiki, and then it all kind of come together. So after being my career teaching, learning development, mental health and addiction, taught all kind of different stuff. Basically, I coached people, recovery groups as well. It kind of just all come together. And there was a moment when I started teaching professionals, because I've taught teenagers as well, very chaotic teenagers. I thought, I don't want to teach kids. So, oh my God, I hope none of them are listening.
That's all right.
So I thought, I taught professionals for the first time. I thought, this is what I want to do. I want my own business where I deliver coaching and I deliver training. And I didn't know what it was going to look like. And I kind of thought I was going to go down equality and diversity kind of route. I knew there was going to be mental health in there, but I still didn't know what it looked like. And for years, the idea was there, but my experience was growing within my other job roles. Had I not worked in recovery, drug, mental health, gambling, and running the training teams and all the ins and outs of it, I wouldn't have those experience now, and all the tools and techniques that I trained people and worked with in recovery, I use those now. So it's kind of just naturally evolved with my with my work experience. And then November 2023, I kind of had this realisation that I had a client who was coming to me for Reiki. Funny enough, he's coming tonight. And
awesome.
And I thought, he just keeps coming back for Reiki. And I thought, you need to try a different approach. And I just said to him, would you be open to coaching? And he was like, yeah. And then it started. I was thinking, this is where I thrive. When people are in that state of chaos and they just need some kind of calm and order to their thinking and their mind. And then I thought, that's it. It's a chaotic mind. So
Yeah.
it took me a long time to get there, because at the point where I gave myself a 5-year goal, it took 6 years when it came to fruition. So it is that kind of chaos. It's kind of what I've experienced. I realise that that's when people come to me, my friends, where they're in a period of crisis. I thought, that's where I excel. And then training, I'm just really good at delivering training. And with my training, I took what I loved. I took that, I've delivered drugs, alcohol and all that kind of stuff, and professional boundaries, conflict management, but I took what I loved. And it was all the tools and techniques within different training that I just put together, and skills, because I deliver motivational interviewing as well. So it's kind of the skills to help themselves, but also to help others. So they're not just applied for one person, they end up benefiting other people that they work with around them.
Yeah. And that's amazing. And like you said, even though you said, I'm just a coach, I'm not really sort of somebody that's kind of going to give advice or whatever, but I'm sure there's going to be times where you've spoken to people that have gone through personal things and you can kind of go, do you know what? I can kind of relate to you, and this is what I've gone through. And you can still show that little bit of support. And I think that's great as well. Yeah, you're just a coach, but you've got a phenomenal story that's going to be able to encourage somebody else that may have gone through or is going through something, and you can kind of give them like a little bit of a nudge and go, it's going to be okay, because this is what I've done. Give it a try. And I'm sure you've met, I'm sure you've met, and you are going to carry on meeting lots of different people that are going to go, Natalie, I am struggling with this. Thank you for this session, but I'm really struggling with this and I don't know what to do. We can still stand there and go, do you know what? All right, I know I don't really do that, but this is what I do, or I can relate with you. And there's nothing better when somebody says, I get you, or I can relate to that. And you're like, what? You get me? That's a beautiful thing as well. So Natalie, where can everybody find you in regards to if they wanted to get into this EFT tapping? Because I know you do bookings and you do online. Is that right, with Zoom?
Yeah.
So where can they find you?
So I'm on Instagram at thechaoticmindcoach.com. I'm on Facebook and I'm on LinkedIn. So I've got a website as well. So it's thechaoticmindcoach.com. So I upload my monthly kind of sessions onto my website. So you can click on the link there. So with the online EFT tapping, I do different ways. So I do a monthly meditation group. So it's very much, it's lovely. It's so nice. So we come together online and I just guide the session as you would be listening to a guided meditation. I guide the session through EFT and we do the points together. Also on a therapeutic level, do one-to-one. That's very different to the meditation. Meditation's a good way of getting into EFT because you're doing it in a group. Nobody has to share anything either. But on a one-to-one level, you're using techniques to go back to different points in someone's life and like freeing that kind of emotion, etc. And looking at reframing thoughts and changing behaviours. So that's quite different. And then I use EFT in coaching as well, but I use it as a tool, kind of like stress and anxiety management. I'll introduce it within coaching and we have a little go, and then people just go off and use it as a tool.
That's amazing. Well, Natalie, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it, for being able to share what you've gone through, share your strengths and hopes. Yes, it's as people share a story, it sounds all a bit doom and gloom, but there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. And here you are today, doing what you're doing, encouraging other people, putting what you've been through into the job that you're doing today and supporting others. And I really do respect you for that. And I really do take my hat off to you for that as well. And I really hope things progress even more, and you get more noticed out there as well. And you definitely will do from after sharing your story today. And thank you again. And just to let everyone know that's at home, if you've really been inspired or touched by Natalie's story today, or if you want to, if you've got any questions at all, then that you can reach me on my website at www.recoverytalks.com. and just drop me a message. And if you've got any messages that you'd like to pass on to Natalie and you'd want to ask some questions, then please do hit her up on Instagram or have a drop her a message on our website as well. She'll be more than happy to get in contact with you, I'm sure. But yeah, Natalie, once again, thank you so much today, and I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been brilliant.
That's all right, Natalie. Cheers.